I think we're all good to go now. So, hi everybody. Thanks for joining in. Had a few technical difficulties, but I think we're all good now. So, just want to welcome Melissa Yee. Thanks, Melissa, for joining me. So, a little
Thank
bit about Melissa. Melissa's an emergency physician who writes medical thrillers starring Dr. Hope Z, a resident physician bone deep in murder. Melissa has been a finalist in the Killer Nashville Silver Flashing Award for Best Thriller, the Crime Writers of Canada Award of Excellence, and the Derringer Award for Best Crime Story in the English Language. Melissa has been published in Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine, Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine, Montreal Noir, and more. She writes speculative fiction and memoir as Melissa Yuan Innes, and sometimes she sleeps. Yeah, and you just told me you've only just come off working.
Yes, about an hour ago. So I did have a
Yeah,
little bit of time, but I wanted to shower,
yeah.
and it was very tight.
So I'm sure you lead a very, very busy life. Just wondering if you want to start off by telling us about your books.
Oh, sure. So I write all genres, but I'm best known for the Hope C medical thrillers, as you said. So I was studying medicine in Montreal. Like when you finish your doctor of medicine, you still need to do a residency, and I was doing it in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And you may not know, a lot of Canadians don't know that healthcare is distributed by province. So I'm from Ontario, that's where I did medical school. And then when I came to Quebec, I was like, wow, things are very different here. There are more patients in the hallways. The nurses have to draw blood instead of having a phlebotomist. There are cardiograms. Like there are just a lot of strange things. And it just made me think about murder. So I was like, what if I had a resident doctor who would solve crime at the same time as being a physician? And residency is a busy time because you basically have to run the wards 24/7. So it was a bizarre idea, and with it, and Dr. Hope C was born.
So how do you find time to write?
Yeah, I'm just a very stubborn person. So probably the hardest time was during general surgery, and I would just try to write a line a day, even if it was just in my head while I was and holding the patient's abdominal contents. I would just be like, I'm trying to think of one myself. And actually, they would chat with each other and make jokes about birds in the chest. So, for example, one of them was the alimentary canal. And so I came up with some some birds, and the thoracic surgeon really liked that.
Yeah.
That's creative, but it is hard, obviously, to put together. Like, so then I just started to write poems when when surgery was so intense. And then if I had a bit more time, then short stories or essays. And it wasn't until I was totally done that I tried to tiptoe my way towards novels.
And I have to say, I read one of your books from the series with Dr. Hope C and really loved it. It's probably I haven't really read a medical crime before, so found it a bit different, which I enjoyed. What sort of feedback do you get from readers?
It depends. So I don't know which one you read, but sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's so amazing," and they can surprise me. Like, a woman came up to me at the library and she said, "I was having surgery, and your books were the only books that I could read."
Oh,
and that
really?
really surprised me. I want to get away from
Yeah.
anything that you're having surgery, but she found it really a good part of her recovery. Another one really made me really touched me because she said, well, she actually told the bookstore. She said, she saved my life, and now I'm reading her books. So sometimes you make a connection with patients, then they'll kind of seek you out.
Yeah.
But I've also had wow, that was a bit much. Because I will describe, it's not bloody usually,
No,
but it's very.
but you do, yeah, but you do describe things maybe in more detail than someone who didn't know it would.
Right. And sometimes people find it a little bit hard to read because, for example, a birth scene or something like that, they're just like, well, did you have to describe that? And I say, well, yes, like that's just part of it, because you have to observe as part of, that's a part of hope, to just be like, what's happening? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? And so that becomes part of the book. But you can just skip the to it, because
and like you said, I read White Lightning, which I think is number 9 in the series. Is that right? Oh, you've got that there. Yeah, I love the cover as well.
Oh, thank you.
So I know a lot of people watching sometimes say, oh, if it's a series, can I read them as standalones? And like, that's why I just wanted to mention, I think this is number 9, and I found it still, great to read, even though I hadn't read the others. But it will also make me want to go back and read some of the others from the past as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the idea. So that people can jump in wherever they want. But if you just happen to be like, well, I really want to learn about prohibition and historical crime, for example, then you would start with what.
And we've got a few people watching, which is great. Just reminding the people watching, if you've got any questions for Melissa, please type them in comments and I can read them out. Kelly's got a question for you. Kelly wonders, what has been your favourite part of your writing journey so far?
Oh, that is a tough one for sure. I think, so for me, I guess really connecting with people, which I alluded to earlier. So it is wonderful to connect with readers because, when you think about something that you're just stuck by yourself creating and no one else may ever read it. So it's really cool if you are able to meet somebody in Australia or from New Zealand or that sort of thing. But also other writers, because doctors tend to be pretty practical people, maybe sometimes very interested in measurable things like money or, other outcomes, and not so interested in art or things that can't be measured. And so I do love meeting other creative people who are just like, we're going to make something that's beautiful and we're not going to worry so much about like how many cents on how many dollars it makes me, because it's just important to exist. So, and of course, actually, I guess my absolute favorite thing is just to create, just to make something that existed before, because I have told, I had a musician friend who was a doctor, and he was like, oh, some of my really good friends aren't that interested in my music. And I was like, yeah, they may not be. Just because you're interested in it doesn't mean you're interested in it. I told him that I made peace with that. Other people can run the emergency room, but only I can write this particular story. So I have to protect my work and do their job and do excellent work.
Yeah. And Kelly also wonders if you've got a favorite book that you've written so far.
I say no, like they're all should not be choosing one baby. It's babies. But the one that frustrates me the most is always the one I'm working on. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah. So what are you doing at the moment? What are you working on?
So I am working on the next Hope C book, but I'm starting a new series with her. So in this one, like there is a little bit of speculative fiction aspect to White Lightning. And so that comes out more in this next series. And also it'll be the 7 deadly sins. So there'll be 7 series, and each one we'll talk about a different sin. Yeah. And the first half. So I like it, but it's also very challenging. And it's on surgery, which I haven't done for a while. So I had to drag in surgery anesthesia friends and be like, oh, this is accurate. What do you think? And one of the things they told me was that they're like, your surgeon is really mean. Basically, they said that the era of this, the surgeon where they can just push people around and be as rude as possible is over. At least in Canada. Yeah. In the United States, extremely, they can still get away with it, but in Canada, not so. And I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? But there are still dinosaurs, and there is still going to be the bad guys. Yeah. So I still. But I did try to balance. There are lots of truly excellent surgeons and other physicians, and I want to be respectful of that too.
No, that sounds great. And so we said before, like, you are very busy with your work, and I think you've got a family as well. how do you set aside a certain amount of time a day, or just fit in some writing when you can? How do you plan that?
So I am quite ruthless about trying to write, and I used to be better about it. Like I'd be like, if I have 5 minutes to write, I'm writing, and I would try to do it because that way you're free when you're done. So I would say words a day if I'm not working in the emergency room, and 500 words a day if I am. And I would be really religious about it. And if I missed it, then I would try to make up for it. So if I knew I was going to have a bunch of shifts, and I'd have to stockpile a bunch of words. Now I'm not as religious about it because I just want to live my life and have some fun too. Like sometimes I'm just like, wow, people come home from work and they relax. This is amazing. That too. My kids, like I don't want to miss them growing up because I was always writing. That's a sadness I don't want to do. So I'm not good about always being efficient. But if I can just get the words done and then move on with my life, it's a good day.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite place to write, or do you just like writing on the spot when you've got a chance to?
I have a desktop. I have an iMac, and so I do like that. But recently, my son's doing Bronze Cross, which is a swimming thing where we have to drive to a different city because we live in the country. So we have to drive to a city, and he's there 2 hours a day, Monday to Friday, training. So I would rollerblade for the first hour or part of it, and then sit in the car and write for the other hour. Or I've been watching him, but it was raining the other day, so I had to be in the car.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like I prefer to concentrate it and get it done and then relax, because otherwise, if you just give me all the time in the world, I may not get it done.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have time to read yourself? And if you do, what do you like reading?
I love reading all sorts of things that just pique my interest. So, for example, I just finished The Lost Weekend by Jilly. That was which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And my book club did. I have a copy anyway. The Music of Bees.
Oh yes.
Which
yeah.
I also
yeah.
Melissa is Greek for honeybee, so I do feel some affinity for bees, and of course, I want them to keep pollinating so that it's good for them and good for the environment, so good for us. I like romance too, like as a relaxing thing. So I love Alyssa Cole, Courtney Milan, Jackie Lau. And I read a lot of nonfiction as well. So, for example, All Magazine articles, and they've made collections of them. So I love when people can make me laugh, and I read their memoirs and stuff too.
Yeah.
So I like, and I also write and read fantasy and science fiction.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I kind of look at it if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, thanks for those recommendations. We like hearing more books to add to our piles of books to read.
Yes, of course. And then I guess the only thing for me personally, I don't read super sad or horrific things because finding work is a little bit too much that way for me. But I still respect people who do it. And I did used to enjoy reading her, but now like I just find it kind of preys on my mind a little bit too much. So I've stepped away.
Yeah. And what about research for your books? Do you find you have to do much research, or is it a lot of things that you've already had experience with anyway?
I read a lot of news articles. I'm always looking for crimes and things that spark an idea. And that can get pretty dark. Just reading about how people hurt each other that's heavy. So I have to put that aside sometimes. And I also went to Thriller Fest recently. Actually, I won a scholarship for a BIPOC person, which is a Black, Indigenous person of color, like any of those, for a middle grade thriller. So R.L. Stein was one of the judges, and he spoke to the Kimberly, and he said that he'd like to meet with me. So I was like, oh, time to read R.L. Stein. So I made sure before I went. And I actually really enjoyed, he had a choose your own adventure kind of book where you went to a fair and your little brother disappears and, you're trying to take care of it. What are you going to do? And I was shocked how many times you would die.
Yeah.
Like, It's all the time. And I asked him about when I met him, and he said, "Oh, it's very easy. Just write 1 to 100 scenarios, and in most of them, you make them die." I was like,
Most
"Okay."
of them. I used to love the Choose Your Own Adventures. Probably, yeah, when I was a kid, I read them all the time. And I'd make sure I read every single ending.
Me too. I would just mark the ones that I want
Yeah,
to go back
yeah.
on. So I was just stunned at how many times R.L. Stein would just kill you, because I was like, oh, just kind of like, oh, I thought it was something horrible, but it was just my parents pulling up in their car, But no, in this one, he kill you multiple times. So that I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
There were other people I enjoyed reading, especially Maureen Johnson, who's a young adult author whom I hadn't read before. And she has some very cool work about like the truly yes, links today with 1930s, and her Jack the Ripper London series, where ghosts who were doing the killing. That's not too much of a spoiler. Very interesting work. She was on a panel with me. She bought my books afterwards, and I was just like, I love this person.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah.
You meet the person, and then you read their work as well as you get to meet them. So that's one of the advantages of going to a conference.
Yeah. And Rainey says how fabulous that you can use the knowledge of your profession in your novels. She thinks that the in-depth detail would be great and it would actually enhance the story.
Oh, Rainey, you're my perfect reader. Thank you.
And Kelly wonders if you love doing any other artistic activities, or is writing your main artistic passion?
Well, I just came back from the Winnipeg Fringe, which is the Fringe Festival. I know that you have the Adelaide Fringe, and there's at least one other famous one in Australia that's slipping my mind right now. So you probably know what that is, which is anybody can perform.
Yeah.
And open to all, and you can be as creative as you want, sort of thing. So I had written a book called The Most Unfeeling Doctor in the World and Other True Tales from the Emergency Room, and which was essays from the emergency room. And that was a really popular book when it came out. So I was like, well, I have all this material. I'll just tell people stories about the ER. And it was super popular in Ottawa. It won Best of Fest. And so I was like, okay, Winnipeg is the second biggest one in Canada. I'll just give it a try. So I did. And to prepare for that, I was taking lessons in acting and singing and dancing and all sorts of stuff, which I loved. And I had put aside, so that I could do medicine and have a family and all sorts of stuff. So it was good to have a different, to explore things. I have to say, also frustrating because, the critics can come and criticize. You could have a terrific show and people could not come.
Yeah.
There are a lot of risks involved. So and the big thing about firing, so you had to go up to people and be like, hi, do you want to come see my show? Which I could not do at first in Ottawa. I just felt so embarrassed to approach. I would just mute and I would just hand them the card. And then I got better. By the time I got to Winnipeg, I would just unabashedly approach anybody. But it was not my favorite thing. And I did prefer when I am and people just come in and I don't have to ask for people's business.
It's really putting yourself out there doing that, isn't it? So did you say, have you written a book about your experiences in the ER? Is that what you said, or that's just...
Yes, a number of them, but that was the most popular one. The most.
I'll have to have a look at that one as well. So I've read. I don't know if you've heard. I can't remember what his name is, but there's someone in the UK who is an ER doctor in the UK, and he's written quite a probably 2-3 at least books that are quite about his experience and everything. Yeah, and I've really enjoyed them. So I'll have to have a look at your ones.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Are you thinking of Adam Kay?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
The white coat.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Because he's an excellent writer. Yeah. My friend Jessica Nichols, and she also has written her memoir, The Doctor in /Curable, if you want to check that one out too. So there are lots of talented people out there for sure. Yeah. You got to call.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for chatting with me. It's been great talking to you. Do you want to let people watching know how they can keep up with what you're doing?
Oh yes, so I think this is Facebook Live. So I am on Facebook.
Yeah.
I do have Instagram active, Twitter, Sassy, and TikTok, which I should do more of. And I have my own website, fyi.net. And if you sign up for that, you get a free novella, a free Hope C novella.
Oh,
and I would love to,
that's good.
so please feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah,
I
no,
love friends.
thanks so much. And thanks for the people who joined in with some questions. It was great chatting to you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
All the best.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.